Could we go ahead and call our meeting to order? Thank you.
Yes, we can.
It was the council causing the noise that I thought I would get their attention. If we could go ahead and call our meeting to order, and if I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for a moment of silence, and then we'll ask Councilwoman Tackett to lead us in the pledge to the flag.
One moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Shall we call the roll?
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mrs. Conway?
Here.
Mrs. Singer-Erdley?
Here.
Mr. Lesby?
Here.
Mr. Showalter?
Here.
Mrs. Tinglesane?
Here.
Mrs. Tackett?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Another full house. Thank you. Each of you should have a copy of the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting of February the 8th. If you'd like to take a moment and look those over for any possible corrections or additions.
Motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Conway? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. In your packets, you should have a copy of our latest check register. Everybody would indicate that they've received that register. Thank you. When we mentioned the check register, I just wanted to revisit a comment we made at last council meeting that a citizen, Nancy Giles, had asked previously if we would be willing to list all of our checks on our website in an interest of full transparency. And working with Stacy, I realized that we now post the entire council packet online for every meeting. That includes the check register. So it is there for every citizen, and we do that on a routine basis. I'll speak with Ms. Giles and see if that meets the standard that she had in mind. But we already are taking that step in the interest of transparency. Under the public comments portion of our meeting, we have several folks signed up. First, Ms. Sharon Flint.
I'm Sharon Flint, and I'm with the Scott County Farmers Market, and I'm here tonight to ask, we have been in the same location at the courthouse square, just pass
I will.
around, since 1993, so 22 years there in that same location, but this year we would like to move to the new parking lot down on the corner of North Broadway and Washington, and also would like to move our day to Saturdays and Saturday morning from 9 till 1. Of course, setup would be at 8:30, and then we, on the paperwork, I put that we would be out of there by 1:30. So that is our request.
A big change from those of us that enjoyed Friday mornings at the farmer's market.
I know, a little scary for the group, but I think they're really excited about it.
Do you think you're going to get more people? I know downtown, when it's downtown, you get the employees and all that's downtown. Do you think you'll get more people by going there and
Last
changing?
year, we had a Saturday when we celebrated National Farmers Market Week. We had a farmers market in August on Saturday. And the vendors who were there did very well that day. It was a later crowd. Of course, you know, the folks on a Friday market came really early before work or like on lunch break or something. So the Saturday market was a little later, about 9:30 people started rolling in, but they did very well, and some said they did better than that Saturday in just, like an hour and a half than they had
Oh, that's great.
the whole time on a Friday. So, yeah, they're thinking about moving to Saturday and would like to have permission to use the parking lot.
Well, I think the location down there with all the parking lots is going to be a lot easier to get in and out of. Because you have to, most time you see them just stop, jump out, get something and roll.
Yeah.
Now they can get out and look around. You'll probably do a lot
Exactly.
better down there.
Well, and it'll be easier for our farmers market folks to be able to bring in their trucks closer and that sort of thing.
How much of the lot are you going to use?
We're thinking about just that corner of North Broadway and Washington Street. Now, we haven't really gone down there and started measuring. We do have, how many vendors do we have, Jessica?
We have 7 and 2 potential new vendors.
New vendors. And then I've had calls for other folks. So this will, and at the Courthouse Square, we've met our capacity. Couldn't squeeze anyone else in. And so this would allow us to grow a little. So, you know, we weren't thinking of taking up the whole parking lot, just maybe, like I said, we haven't even gone down there to look because we just didn't want to get ahead of ourselves. We wanted to get permission first and then go from there.
One of the advantages I see in this is it being on a Saturday and businesses, a lot of things are closed downtown, you know, some people aren't working or whatever, and I think that, like, the county attorney's office and child protective services, all that right there, that parking lot would be available as well for parking, without taking any parking up in downtown. So I see it as maybe being advantageous for you to try it.
I think it will be too. I've had a number of people actually ask me about Saturdays because if they work, you know, elsewhere during the week, it's just so hard to get here.
Last year when we had it on Saturday, the folks that came, of course, we didn't have a lot of advertising time because we didn't get the information from the Kentucky Department of Ag about all the promotion until just about 2 weeks before. And so we had to wait to get permission from the city council, of course, to have it on a Saturday. So that cut down our advertising time. So it wasn't a big advertising campaign for Saturday. So the folks that came were just people that came by, you know, come downtown for breakfast, or were out walking, or were driving by going to somewhere else and said, oh, we happened to see you here. You know, are you going to be here all the time on Saturday? And everyone that came to the Saturday market, that was their question. Are you going to be here from now on Saturdays? They were really hoping. And it's a totally different clientele than what we normally see on Friday.
Are you gonna control where people set up and keep it in that corner?
Yes.
But I can see some people showing up and saying, well, I'm gonna set up over on this side of the parking
Oh,
lot.
yeah, no. As a part, see, the farmer's market is an incorporated group, so they would have to be a member and abide within the members' rules. And part of that would be where folks can set up and the confirmation, or the confirmation of how it would all be set up.
I'd like to make a motion, we grant the request under the stipulation that stays focused on that corner.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? They haven't given you that presentation tonight, but I'm sure that Sharon and Jessica would be more than happy at some future date to talk with you about a structure down on that corner as well for this purpose.
Yes, we're not
We've
giving
had those
up.
conversations, I know.
We are not giving up, and every time I see Mayor Prather out on the street, I always, hey. So we're not
This is the
giving
start
up.
of getting down there.
Yeah, you know, we may have to wait, we may have to change plans a little bit, but we're still pulling for a permanent structure at some point.
I thought you were.
They need to get hold of, Tom, they need to get hold of the Public Works on Friday to get their barriers that they need to block it off. You need
That's a
some.
good point.
And that's what I did request, that we needed
Yeah,
some
I seen that.
barricades that we could maybe about 3 or
Just
4
call them
maybe
Friday,
bring
Friday,
them
to
out.
bring them down, set them off
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Sharon, the only thing that I'd ask, just because I'm real fond of our new pretty parking lot and the new pretty surface, I hope that when folks set up tents, they don't use stakes in the parking lot, but
It would
other
be
ways to secure
sandbag,
the
and that's what they
sandbag.
used up here.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you.
Like that even better.
We waited too long for
I
this
know.
parking lot to be nice. Okay.
Sounds
If-
exciting.
If there are no questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good luck.
Great, thank you all very much, and we hope to see you down there on Saturday. Starts May 28th.
You will.
Good.
Okay. Tony, you signed up for a second, but I'm going to address your issue later in the agenda. Is Hannah Perkins here? Hey, please come forward.
I am here for Mills Chiropractic.
We are trying to do our 4th annual Autism Awareness 5K, and we were wanting to get permission to use the usual Georgetown 5K route this year, April 16th, 2016.
Motion made.
Second.
That goes fast. Motion's been made and seconded. Are there questions
All the
about that?
paperwork ready, so.
Yeah, all the paperwork's been completed. Pretty fancy flyers ready to go.
We tried.
Okay.
Good.
If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. And while we're on the issue of 5Ks, Dwayne?
Along the same lines, we should get some sort of award for being healthy. We've got a farmer's market and all kinds of 5Ks. And I think we've got tax incentives coming, so we're really healthy. We're coming to you just to kind of start planning as well for the 4th annual Findlay 5K. We are looking at the August 27th date at 6 p.m. We come a little earlier probably than most because of all the size and the scope that we are looking at. Last year, we finished with about a little over 1,250 runners and people down there. So, hope to, every year we try to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit better. So we're hoping for 1,500 this year. We'll start, after we get confirmation to move forward, we'll start doing all the marketing and setup there. Just to kind of, I know we've talked last time about some of the statistics and data there, because we were talking about, we changed the course. The chief and his guys were great about, and the sheriff's department were great about working out a system where we were able to change the course to a Main Street race. We call it the Findlay 5K, the Findlay map. And when I asked to do that again, Lemons Mill, old Lemons Mill is fine as long as we all go one way, but when we start going back on each other with that many people, it became pretty tough. So we would ask to do that again, but now, and I've talked with Chief and Mayor talking about logistics. We're not, the city is probably going to have to sit down and really make a plan about the 5Ks and using the Findlay route versus, your normal other route. We can't, ask the chief to do all the overtime and eat it out of his budget. It might be that I have to raise more money to be able to pay for some of that. I know you guys are, always trying to help everybody out, but, there comes a time when these 5Ks are all going to want to use the Main Street course or whatever, or use all that overtime. And you just can't, as a city, we can't, just assume we're always, I'm in the same role. Everybody's asking to use, every gym in Scott County and every field in Scott County all the time with the school system. So sometimes you're going to have some sort of policy or, limits or contributions from the 5K folks, because we'll have one every week if we don't. Sometimes it'd be 20 people, sometimes it'd be 1,500. So we're glad to be a part of that solution or part of that, working through. We also have reached out to, I guess it would be now, through the tourism to see if there was anything that downtown wanted to do along with it. That wouldn't benefit us in any way, but we're trying to make sure that, we got 1,250 or 1,500 people, near downtown. Let's keep them here a little while longer. We had approximately 800 of those 1,200 were from Scott County. The other 400 were from out of town. So bringing in quite a few folks out of Scott County as well, and bringing them right downtown to all the businesses. So just a way to get back. Most of those businesses are sponsors. So I think it makes sense to do something. I don't know what that is and what they would want to do, but we're glad to be a part of marketing it and being there as well, being supportive of that. So again, just asking permission, and we haven't done any paperwork yet. We're way early, but and I almost screwed up last year on the paperwork. It didn't get, I didn't realize I was supposed to fill out I thought the police would have to fill that Main Street thing out, and it got like a week ahead of time. Luckily Tracy saved me and we got it done.
Well, I don't see an issue when you come back with all your paperwork, believe me, none whatsoever.
Don't either.
And I think we can go ahead and act to pin down your date tonight.
Right.
Yeah.
I do want to say how much the chief and I appreciate Mr. Ellison's approach to our conversation.
Right.
when we sat down to talk about the event and the needs that the event requires, it was Mr. Ellison who brought up the topic of not negatively impacting the chief's budget. So we appreciate it when
Yes.
community-minded groups are concerned about our expenses as well.
It's hard to say no to all the great causes that these 5Ks
Right.
are coming across. I mean, everybody wants to help us out and every other. We try to go run in as many as we can too. Or walk or crawl, whatever it takes. But, I'm going to be.
Roll for me, right?
I'm doing the Chiefs. They're having one on the 14th of May, so I'm going to sign up for that.
I know.
So see you guys there, right?
Yep.
So,
Gonna be leaving
but there
us.
comes, I have a lot of their guys tied up. They still gotta have people ready to go to emergencies or situations. There's only so many people, so many personnel, so many hours. So, it might come to a point where there's gotta be a different way of doing it, or we have to pay a certain amount for the overtime, whatever it happens to be.
Mayor, we talked about this, like you said, last year when you came up. Have you looked at it on,
Chiefs actually developed, I think, 3 different routes.
has the police committee talked about it?
No,
Okay.
I don't believe they have yet, Chief.
Well, maybe it's something, since it's been a year and it's gotten to past the thinking point or starting to develop, maybe it's something that the police committee can look at and see where it's going and see how many we've got and what we need to do with it, and if we're gonna do anything or not extra.
And I know Chuck's talked about this with me a couple of times, the concern about how many 5Ks can we do. And in
Right.
fact, the chief and Dwayne and I talked about, we may have a set number we can have in Georgetown, and once those are scheduled, then we simply can't accommodate more. So we want to work with these groups, appreciative when that's a two-way street. And Chief, that would be a good topic for our police committee to review those routes again and the cost that you develop for each of those routes. Is there a motion to approve a date of 8/27?
With the paperwork being in order, and what's the date, sir?
August 27th,
Thank you.
6
I'll
p.m.
second it since.
Yep.
August 22nd at 6 p.m.
27.
Yeah, 6.
Did you say 22nd or 27th?
27.
27.
27.
Thank you.
Sorry.
At 6 p.m. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Just-
I'll
motion-
get Ms. Turner's paperwork in.
Before you all vote, just a heads up, we were able to raise over $45,000 last year.
Wow.
That's good.
With,
Very good.
that's 54, about 45 to 50 sponsors, and then which helps us basically run the race. It takes about $15,000, and 90% of that's the shirt, the shirt and the bag that we give out, and then just the other fees to get the race done. So we were able to send $20,000 to Boston Children's Hospital. Sorry. One of these days I won't do this, but it seems like every time I talk about it, I get emotional.
You take your time.
10,000 to Seattle for Boston Children's there, and then a neat thing where we're going to do in May on the 14th of May, same day as the race, will be we're getting involved with Boston Children and their intern program that they have through the summer with their college kids, the several folks that at Boston are kind of elderly in their age and getting up there, some of those doctors, so they're trying to start the next generation of SIDS researchers, so we're going to try to help fund some of that internships through the summer. And then the following Thursday after the race will be the 4th annual SIDS game at Georgetown College as well, through the football programs that we do with the Mid-South. So we fund those efforts through the Mid-South as well. Banners, stickers, something like you would see at the cancer games on NFL. So just so you guys also have that, what we're doing with everything.
You do a good
Great.
job.
Thanks for what you do for the community too.
Thanks.
Great.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
$100.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, the business started around.
Yeah,
Wait a
really.
minute.
There used to be a sign on the wall. no
Mayor.
cell phone.
Yes, ma'am.
When the committee meets, one of the things, because he was so willing to give out his numbers of what they're actually raising, I mean, that might be something to think about, how much are the groups able to raise? I mean, we don't want, it's all going for a good cause, so you don't want to take anything away from them, but that's a consideration on the smaller ones to see how much they're actually able to raise and that type of thing, so.
You know, it reminds me of a conversation again that Chuck and I had on this topic. For some of the very small 5Ks, if we simply wrote them a check, it would be cheaper than the police overtime and more than what they're going to raise. So I do think
Hard to
that,
do that.
that we're never going to be, take a hardcore stance again with these things, but we do have to reasonably look at our cost.
I think if we look at the cost and we say, look, you're gonna have to help cover these costs, it's gonna weed the smaller ones out. And then we can stipulate if you're gonna bring a certain number of people into town, we're gonna waive that cost.
Right.
Which with this one here, we would do that because they're bringing so many people in town. If we had some type of policy in place to do that, we wouldn't be getting that many requests.
Or if there was another route, something else, and maybe there's not, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head, if there was another, for the smaller groups, if there was another route that didn't require quite as much police force, and then the larger groups can do a bigger, or a route that will require more staff. So I don't know.
Sounds good. We will have the committee bring that discussion back to you.
Sounds good.
Let's see. Well, we're at that wonderful time of the meeting called Mayor's Comments. Everybody can settle in, take a deep breath. No, this will not be this painful tonight.
Everybody chuckled.
Everybody check.
We'll vote on that after. That's exactly right. No particular order, kind of a stream of consciousness here for you, but handful of things I want to make you aware of that Chief Ward and the fire department have been working on that I think are just outstanding. Some things to update you on, and some very progressive steps that I think Chief Ward has been taking. This morning, we kicked off our second fire officer training course. We were very proud of the fact that we developed our first officer training course last year with an eye toward generating our own leadership going forward internally, and giving these firefighters an opportunity to train and learn leadership skills. Last year's class went very well. Pretty excited to let you know tonight that the course this year is including both city firefighters and county firefighters. So for the first time, we're working collaboratively on a fire officer training course that benefits the county as well.
Awesome.
And Chief, I think there were 4 or 5 county firemen in this class that the Georgetown Fire Department's putting on. At the kickoff this morning, both Chief Fuller and Chief Ward spoke to the group, and I think that's exactly the kind of activity that we want to promote. So, Chief, appreciate your leadership on that one. While we're on the fire department, also want to let you know that Thursday of last week, Chief Ward and his department hosted the ISO review group. ISO is Insurance Services Organization. They rate fire departments, and that fire department rating directly impacts the fire insurance part of your homeowner's rates. So whatever that rating is set at will determine the cost of your fire insurance. The last ISO inspection that we had was in 2011, so it's been 5 years, and we were due, this is the window when we're due for a regular reinspection. Schedule-wise, we know that county is on about the same schedule, and in fact, I think they're due for their ISO inspection next month. There were some unfortunate rumors that this ISO visit was not routine, but was prompted by a deficiency, and that simply is not the case. And want to make sure that's clear for the council. The reports the chief has given me is that ISO visit went very well. It will be several months before we get that formal report back, and the investigator is not allowed to discuss results with us. But it's our impression that ISO visit went very well, and we look forward to getting that report in 3 or 4 months. And while we're on fire, I want you to know that Wednesday of last week, our new fire truck was delivered. It's been stocked, and it is now on the streets and available for use. So the big white truck that some of our citizens complained about can leave our service, and we have our big new red truck for that purpose. We have worked for an extended period of time on the Homeowners Association ordinance, and I want to give you an update on where we are and what the next couple of steps will be for the HOA ordinance. We think we're very close to bringing a completed ordinance around which we've developed a great deal of consensus. Andrew has done some additional work on the ordinance and updated some of the wording that we had in place previously. We are going to send you the new draft ordinance so that you all can start reviewing it. We would then like to schedule a standalone public hearing, not a hearing that's a part of a council meeting. I think if we're going to really evaluate this issue in a public hearing, we need a dedicated hearing to do that. During that hearing, it would be our expectation that we would hear council comments about the content of the ordinance and let us help guide the council through a conversation about the several points of the ordinance that we still think need your input. And we think with your input at that time, and give it an opportunity to hear from the public in a public hearing setting, that we can be ready then to bring the council first reading an ordinance at the council meeting after that public hearing. We're getting ready to face one of those fairly unusual periods where we have 3 weeks between council meetings. So typically in our 2-week rotation, we would have been meeting on the 7th. What we would like is council's opinion on whether we should have this hearing, standalone hearing on the 7th, or would you rather wait until the 21st? Our next regularly scheduled council meeting will be in the month of March. Our meetings will be the 14th and the 28th.
Actually, Mayor, if I just might add, on March 21st, there's a scenario planning for planning and zoning and the steering committee.
Okay.
So David and I were at that meeting last week where they planned that. It's going to be try to be as much of a community-wide, committee-wide on that. So that date might make it hard for 3 of us.
Well, and plus it might make it hard for the public to be
Exactly.
here. And that's the point of engaging them in the conversation. What would council think about doing this event on the 7th?
You call it, we'll be here.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Whatever you say.
I would really like to be here for that meeting, and I've already got plans to be out of the country that day, so.
It's geographically difficult to achieve.
Skype you.
Yeah.
We may need to go ahead and schedule it then and then give you as much feedback or give you access to the YouTube videos for what we discussed that night.
Would it work the day after our next council meeting on the 14th, so it'd be the 15th?
He's pulling out his schedule.
Tuesday night.
I have to look at this broken iPhone to be able to see what the calendar looks like.
The city can afford you a new iPhone.
This is my iPhone.
Oh, okay.
Just for the
That's another
record.
story.
Get it out there, Mayor.
That's another story.
That's right.
Watching that budget.
I just soon not have that oversight.
I've got a conflict that night, but, you know,
15th?
it's gonna be hard to find a night
Yeah,
that one of
it
us
is.
doesn't have something. So
Yeah.
I'm good with whatever.
Okay.
I'm gonna have a hard time on the.
Unfortunately, I won't be out of the country.
You won't?
Fire Academy.
Does the 7th give us adequate time to advertise the hearing in the way that the public is going to expect us to advertise it?
2 weeks.
Gives us 2
2
weeks.
weeks. Well, we get started.
Put it on the Facebook page, website, that gives us time to get it in the
Got
paper.
a paper man
Be
out there
good.
can run it every week, every day for you.
Take that.
Yeah. And Chuck, we'll inform you just as well as we can.
Chuck, if you got some time between now and then, I'll sit down and talk with you about some things that you brought up at another meeting and the way I've tried to incorporate some of those thoughts. We can talk before the meeting.
I might, can I just add something? I know you wanna do this probably as soon as you can,
Mhm.
but is April the 4th out of the question? Is that too far out?
It's not, Connie. It's just been a long-term
I know.
discussion that
I know.
we think we want to bring it to a close, but that's not too far for us.
It works for everybody else. It does, the positive of April the 4th is it gives more time to keep
You can be here.
saying that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Is that spring break week? I think that is.
All right.
spring break.
April the 4th work for everybody else?
You said, is April 4th spring break?
It's the week prior
Oh my God.
for the high school. for
Week
step
after?
down. The week prior,
Spring break's the week prior.
yeah, the end of March.
28th, 29th, 30th, 31st is spring break,
Yeah, same as Easter.
It-
same as
This year.
Easter
Yeah.
weekend?
Mhm.
Okay, everybody good?
There a motion that we have our HOA public hearing and council
Motion, Mayor.
workshop for the 4th of April at 6 o'clock. Thank you. Motion's been made, Ms. Tackett, second, Ms.
I'll
Ames.
second.
Already had.
Already? I didn't even hear it.
I just waved.
She did the finger.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I think this time schedule will work well. It is going to require you all to really review the draft ordinance that Andrew sent you.
Well, that'll give us time for that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Just in the interest of keeping council informed on issues that will be coming to us. Most of you have probably seen our local paper and know that the Scott County Fiscal Court is currently considering a needle exchange program that the health department has recommended to them. On most issues relating to landfills, only the county government has to act, since the solid waste plans in Kentucky are developed by county government. However, in this particular case, the legislation that created the opportunity for these needle exchange programs requires the approval of the city as well. So I wanted you all to be aware that as soon as the fiscal court completes their work on the needle exchange program, it will come to the Georgetown City Council.
If they vote no, how does that, do both bodies have to vote yes?
I don't think they're going to vote no. And if they do, then we'll respond to that. What I wanted the council to know is that we likely will be taking up the issue, and that I am going to endorse it and encourage you all to pass it.
Yes.
I think it's good public policy. Long history in other places shows that it reduces disease in your community, and it does not promote drug use. It's just a more humanitarian and progressive way to deal with the issue. Our local medical community feels that way, our local health department feels that way, and our chief of police feels that way, I believe.
Mayor, can I add a comment to it? I've had the opportunity to, I guess, to attend a couple meetings. The chief was there, and representatives of the police department, the sheriff's department were there, the health department were there, and they were all advocates in favor of what you're describing. And I know at first, at least in my mind, it was something you kind of have to say, wow, is that something that, we really need to get involved with? And apparently we do need to get involved with it in order for it to take place. And then the more I learned about it, the more supportive I became as I've listened to the professionals and people in the medical field here in the community, as well as parents that have been impacted. So anyway, I lend my support that direction as well.
Why do we have to get, I mean, I don't know that much about the issue. I heard Lexington did it, Nicholasville did it, so I figured it was coming this direction, but why do we have to do an ordinance?
The
Why are
law
we
they
involved?
passed in 2015 required any health department that wants to operate a needle exchange to be approved by both the city and county legislative bodies to operate it.
Did that come from Kentucky or did that come from federal?
Kentucky.
And the exchange program is a federal started program, or how did it originally?
I don't think so. I first started hearing about needle exchange programs when I was attending U.S. Conference of Mayor meetings. I was a magistrate, but because I worked for KLC, I was attending U.S. Conference of Mayor meetings. And it's been, this concept, while new to many people in Scott County and Kentucky, has been mainstream for about 10 years in other parts of the country.
So it is more of a federal thing probably then.
I think it's been adopted by states, but so many have adopted it now that it's becoming pretty mainstream. Even though, as David said, at first it may seem counterintuitive. When you do the homework on it, it begins to make more sense. So we don't have to, obviously it's not an action we take tonight, but I did want to prepare you all if you wanted to do some research or any reading on it, that will be coming to us pretty soon. An update for the council on the stockyards issue. We had talked about, at the last council meeting, I had expressed concern about the stockyards and the lack of information that we had about where the location might be and how that might impact our aquifer. So Bob and I have had numerous conversations about this, and they have meetings scheduled of the Royal Spring Wellhead Protection Committee, which is the group that we have in place to help protect our interest with the aquifer. I can tell you that tonight the lines of communication are better than they were 2 weeks ago. I have now had conversations with the leadership of Commerce Lexington. I have had a sit-down session with Jim Akers, who is the COO of the Stockyards Company, and Ryan Quarles. We met jointly. They have assured us that there is a lot of technical data that they're going to provide for us so that we can begin evaluating the science behind this. I was glad to learn that for several years, the stockyards, Lexington and the stockyards have been doing water analysis of the town branch, which is right beside the old stockyards. And they're going to bring us those test results, which I think will show, according to them, over the last 2 or 3 years that there hasn't been anything of significance going into the town branch, which was right beside a much older and dated facility. Importantly, they've been doing water quality analysis since the fire, when a lot of water was poured on that site. And the water quality in the town branch has held up. What I assured Mr. Akers and Commissioner Quarles is that we would approach our concerns about the stockyard location by looking at the science and the data and the engineering that's going to go into the facility, and that we would do our best not to make that decision based on emotion. I think we have better lines of communication today as a result of that. And stay tuned. There's still a lot more to happen. I believe the site that they own on Ironworks Pike will become their preferred location. They indicate that that final decision has not been made. I think it will become their preferred location. And we need a lot of data to address our concern. We have one concern, and that is the quality of our aquifer and the drinking water that we provide for 32,000 people. So they are aware of our concerns. They think that they've indicated their willingness to work with us to the extent possible to address those concerns. We have been invited to take a field trip to Stanford, where they own another stockyard that's about 8 years old. And I believe the design of that facility and the operation of that facility is very, very different from what was down by Town Branch.
If they build here, it'll be state-of-the-art as far as a stockyard is concerned, thinking of state-of-the-art, but it'll be state-of-the-art if they build it here.
Yet, Jim Akers and I talked about the fact that there are a lot of technology improvements and design improvements even from 8 years ago. I want us to make sure that our technical folks, the folks that we entrust with the Royal Spring Aquifer, to make sure they're comfortable, that we can be comfortable as policymakers, and we want to understand the design, and we may have some recommendations on the type of monitoring done. For example, just to make sure we get an early indicator if anything is amiss.
If we could get past making sure, make sure that the water's protected, there'll be an economic value for our community here to have them. It won't help us with our tax, but it'll be an economic value to have them in Scott County.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Karen, because we've learned that what real regionalism looks like is it doesn't matter if something goes here or in another county, we all benefit from that regional economic activity. And it's just a more enlightened view of economic development. So I'm encouraged that the communication is better. And hopefully that'll work out well. Since I rang the bell pretty loud at the last meeting, I thought I better close the loop for you on what we've discussed. Really pleased that this morning, after we kicked off the fire officer training program, we came back to City Hall, and Chief Bossy and I were able to swear in a new police officer. We welcomed Larry Joe Dotson to the department. So, pretty good way to start the day with the fire department and the police department. You have a flyer, I believe, on your desk. I hope you do. There is the Ed Davis. Do y'all have this flyer?
I don't.
You don't have a flyer. You will have a flyer. Okay. The Parks and Recreation Department is going to host a community visioning meeting at Ed Davis Learning Center. As they prepare the Parks and Recreation budget, they want to engage the Ed Davis community better about Parks budget, what people would like to see in Parks budget, what is reasonable, what cannot be done. I was really pleased that they've elected to reach out to the community in this way. We'll get you a copy of this flyer. It's scheduled for Thursday, February the 25th from 6 to 7 at the Ed Davis Center. Uh, On my list also, the previous city council began an action that I believe that we need to bring to a close. And we're now in a position to bring it to a close. The previous council began an inquiry into some incidents involving former council member Brad Penn. And council hired an attorney to investigate those allegations and bring a report back to the council. For the new council members, the attorney that did this investigation completed his work, presented it to the council, and the prior council did not accept the report because a couple of people had not been interviewed. And that prior council felt it was very important that these other people be interviewed to make the report complete. One of those people that the council wanted interviewed was Mr. Penn himself. We think it's time to draw this issue to a close. Out of fairness to everyone involved, it's time for us to bring this issue to a close. We've worked with that attorney, and we have gotten an addendum to his report that outlines 3 additional people that he talked to, and outlines his efforts to speak with Mr. Penn, even though he was unsuccessful. We'd like to hand out to you tonight a copy of the original letter report that was provided to the last council, and a copy of the most recent letter that we think completes his report. This is for your information, and I believe the only appropriate action for the council to take, I'm not a council member, it's easy for me to say, is that you simply acknowledge receipt of the report. I don't think any further action is required by this council, but I do think for us to conclude the issue, we need to acknowledge receipt of the final report. Anything else need to be said there?
It is now an open record document.
It is, it's a final document that's been presented to the council.
Gotcha.
So if anyone would like to make a motion to acknowledge receipt of these reports, I'd be glad to accept that.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
I don't think there's a lot of discussion necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm almost through, Jack. Almost through.
Good.
No, actually, I'm now down to item A. Mr. Jack Connor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I always like saying that. Just makes me feel good. If you recall, I'm sorry, Jack Connor. I'm representing Scott County United and the Chamber and whatever else. 2 months ago, we came before you with representatives from Johnson Controls and also representative from YSPS, Yamamoto Sagawa Precision Stamping. Tonight, we come before you again with the opportunity or a request in order for you to consider a municipal order approving the activation resolution to go to KITFA, Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority, for one of our community manufacturing partners. The partner in this case is Vuteq USA. And prior to me going through my normal process of what that process is we've been through the last 3 years, let me introduce Mr. Tony Ritchie. Tony is company director and plant manager for Vuteq USA, and he'll tell you just a little bit about what they do, and then I will follow back up.
Jack, thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
You guys may know, Vuteq's been with Georgetown since 1987. Okay, we originated, we've been mainly a Tier 2 supplier to Toyota. Tier 2 meaning we do not have the direct contract with Toyota, but through a Tier 1 supplier. So glass assembly was our biggest early days success. We've grown a little bit with glass. About 15 years as Tier 2, and then we ventured off it to more of a Tier 1 supplier. Tier 1 means we have more responsibilities, more direct communication with Toyota. So since 2005 up to current date, and as recent as 2013, we've received a great deal of new opportunities direct with Toyota to support this latest generation Camry, to support Lexus, and as well to support a new glass business with Subaru. So with these latest new job opportunities, we've had the liberty to expand our operations. And we spent over $11 million, and within these 3 years, we will increase our workforce some 40 team members. So it's a good opportunity for us. Like I said, we've been here for a long time. We plan to be here a lot longer. I've lived every year of it here, so it's been a good journey for myself. So it's a little bit of history about us, but again, we got some good things working our way.
They did add, those of you who have been by the plant, they did add 40,000 square feet as a part of that 11 million plus expansion. So let me, if I may, hand you out the process. I know you've all seen this 1,000 times. But it's kind of very important for me just to kind of go through it. In particular, it is a KBI. You've heard that acronym, Kentucky Business Investment Act. It's promulgated by the state of Kentucky through KRS. The process that you have, and let me kind of give you some dates if you don't mind, please. When item number 2, it's not noted, but number 2, local support letters. That letter was actually given by the mayor and the county judge in June of 2013. So here we are in 2016, almost, well, in this case, 2.5 years later since that time happened. So we have been, they did the expansion, the employees, you've been receiving the full occupational tax ever since that time. In June of 2013, June 27th to be specific, KITFA approved or did what's called the preliminary approval of the tax incentive. The tax incentive is simply this, 0.5% on occupational tax of new employees, 0.5% from the county on new employees, and then there is a corporate income tax credit as well as a tax credit at the state of Kentucky, and that happens to be 3%. It's 3 times whatever the county, city and county participate. So preliminary approval, and they did their hiring, they've done their employment, et cetera. One little caveat here, we did amend the KBI. Initially, it was 10 jobs with a capital investment. Tony's already indicated we've already amended that upwards to 40 new jobs, not just the 10 jobs, so that's significant, with $11 million capital investment. Today, we're asking for the municipal order that then, if you approve it, fiscal court approved it, I think a week and a half ago, yeah, a week ago Friday, they approved it. It then goes to the KITFA board on the 25th, that's this Thursday, for its approval. And then very simply what happens is that the company is in a position, after attorneys look at it, to activate the incentive. Now, technically, that activation can happen anytime in the next 2 to 3 years. What Vuteq does is up to what Vuteq wants to do in terms of their books and their accounting, et cetera. So what we're asking for is to approve the municipal order, and I will reiterate, it is only on the new jobs, and number 2, as you'll find out when they read the municipal order, this does not, I repeat, does not impact net profits tax at all. It's strictly on occupational tax, 0.5% for the city, 0.5% for the county, so you're gaining, you're not losing, you're gaining 50 cents until the time of the amortization, which is 10 years. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know, since they applied for it in 2013,
Yes.
when does it take effect, the 0.5%?
does not go take effect until after this municipal order is approved. Then it goes to KITFA for its approval, and then it can go into effect within 2 years.
Okay.
So it hasn't gone into effect yet.
Any other questions for Jack? Again, this is an action that the council's already taken, and now we're simply activating that. And you have a municipal order in your packet. I don't think we have to read the entire municipal order, but if Tracy'd be nice enough to read it by title.
A municipal order approving the granting of local inducements to Vuteq USA Incorporated pursuant to KRS Chapter 154, Subchapter 32.
Thank you.
Motion, Mayor.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions for Jack or Tony, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you so very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you all very
Appreciate it.
much.
Thanks for your patience.
Thank you.
tonight. I won't spend much time on this, but Stacy has included, you all have received your revenue forecasting documents. And I'll give Mr. Bradley the gold star. He's already turned his in. I'm not sure we've had that quick a turnaround. That was a very helpful exercise to us last year, and just encourage you all to take advantage of that opportunity. I've had a bunch of people in the audience wait longer than I normally like for them to have to wait. Pardon? Yeah, that's what I was coming to at this point. Under the mayor's comments, I've made reference to the council several times about a very impressive study that Chief Bossy had one of our officers complete about the possibility of forming a traffic enforcement unit and what the benefits of that traffic enforcement unit would be. So, Chief, would you like to introduce Officer Liddell or?
Sure. This is Nick Lowe. Most of you know Nick. As he gets set up, I'll do a little bit of an intro of what we're doing here. The city's growing. We know it's growing. If you doubt that it's growing, we pursued a vehicle into Grant County yesterday for 2 robbery suspects.
Thank you.
Robbery night, 4th at the church lot in Lexington. We cleared the Domino's robbery this afternoon that occurred on 25. Cleared another robbery that occurred an hour ago at the CVS on Showalter. We're becoming a city, and we're seeing the city problems that come with that. We want to project into the future a little bit and suggest that we start looking at traffic issues for a city of 32,000 people as we grow, and try and stay a little bit ahead of those issues. If you travel through Kentucky, if you go toward Versailles on 60, if you can picture where I'm coming, either from Frankfurt or to Frankfurt on 60, or from Lexington into Versailles on 60, I'll bet you that you look at your speedometer. And the reason you do that is because you will always see traffic enforcement on 60 from Frankfurt to Versailles and from Lexington into Versailles. That's because of the high number of fatalities that they had on 60. They have changed the behavior and the number of accidents on those roadways because of the presence of police. That's all we're suggesting that we can do here, is that with a traffic unit, 4 officers dedicated at some point in the future, when you feel like that we're ready for that, we can change behavior in certain portions of Georgetown and reduce the number of deaths that we have from fatalities. We now are up in the teens for fatalities every year for our county due to the population and the number of miles that we travel in this county. To stay ahead of that, at some point we're going to have to. We would like to stay a little bit ahead of the curve and say we were ahead of what we predicted, and that is an increase in accidents. We would like to form at some point a traffic unit that does nothing but enforce traffic laws, take accident reports, do our funeral escorts, which relieves our patrol people of those duties. But the most important thing is we believe, and studies have shown, that we can change behavior of our drivers in the city and reduce the number of accidents and fatalities. I'll let Nick take it from here. He's got a great presentation.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Officer Nick Lodahl. I've been with the city for 5.5 years. I'm currently a member of the department's part-time traffic unit. We've got a couple guys that participate in our federal grants and some other things as we're able to. I'm also a collision reconstructionist, so I'm one of the guys that gets called out whenever you have a serious or fatal collision anywhere in the county. And I also represent the police department on the city traffic committee. I was asked to look into some of the traffic issues that we have here in the city, just to take an objective look on how we can provide a better service to our citizens. So I did this by looking back over the past 5 years, which for the purpose of this study was 2010 to 2014. I did the majority of my research in the latter part of 2015, and even to this date, we still don't have complete data sets for everything in 2015. So I included a few things from last year with complete data sets as I had them. But the first graph behind me here shows the number of collisions within the city limits of Georgetown and our countywide fatalities. Now, the reason I included countywide fatalities, any collision involving a fatality or serious injury is investigated by the Georgetown Scott County Collision Investigation Unit, which that's a collaborative effort between the Scott County Sheriff's Office and the Police Department. There are currently 6 of us on that unit. So as you can see from this graph, we've had a significant increase in the number of fatalities over the past 2 years. 2014, all-time high of 13 fatalities in the county. And then just a significant increase in overall collisions, which in 2014 totaled 1,553 different incidents. A lot of this is likely due, more cars on the road equals more collisions. And so as we get more traffic on the road, we've got to step our game up as well to slow people down and change behavior. On the graph, you can see there was a dip in fatalities on 2012. The best that we can liken that to in 2011 and 2012, less cars on the road due to higher gas prices as well as a weaker economy. The next chart behind me here shows the total calls for service, the total number of traffic stops, and the total number of citations issued by our agency from 2010 to 2014. It also shows the number of traffic stops versus citations have remained virtually the same over this period. When we do traffic stops, the officers are given the discretion on whether to issue a citation or to issue a verbal or a written warning. The goal of us making these is to change behavior, not to generate revenue. And so as you can see from the graph, the number of citations issued to the number of traffic stops has stayed consistent over that 5-year period. If you take a look at this chart, 2010 and 2011 were years that we were not at our full sworn strength, which I think attributes to some of the lower numbers that you see there. In 2012, the department was taken over by Chief Bossy, and the filling vacancies became a top priority at that point. So by late 2012, we had filled every vacancy within the agency, and we had 3 strong years, 2012, 13, and 14, with regard to our staffing. And so those last 3 years in particular are a true reflection of our capabilities of the agency. So in 2015, I'll give you these numbers because we do have them. Our calls for service increased from 30,083 in 2014 to 31,820 in 2015. Our traffic stops went from 4,201 in 2014 down to 3,159. The drop in these traffic stops likely due to just our continuous increase in call volume and just the fact that we are fully staffed. So the next chart behind me that you'll see shows the increase in population over the past 5 years, as well as the daily vehicle miles traveled in the urban areas of Scott County. I contacted the state transportation cabinet, and they were able to provide me with these numbers. The chart shows a steady increase in population, approximately 1% every year for at least the past 5 years, just for the city of Georgetown. The daily vehicle miles traveled, the daily vehicle miles driven shows a sharp increase in 2014 up to 684,000 vehicles. The dip in 2012 is likely due to the high cost of gasoline, again, like we saw with the fatalities on an earlier graph. So I was looking and doing this study at finding another city that was similarly sized to us in Kentucky. So I found Paducah. I actually talked to an officer there who was able to give me a lot of insight, and Paducah PD does an excellent job at tracking all of their statistics in detail. So I'll just kind of give you a quick rundown. See, Georgetown, Kentucky, we're a home rule city, a population of 31,653, spread over 15.85 square miles, located in central Kentucky with 51 sworn personnel. Paducah, Kentucky is also a home rule city with a population of 24,978, spread over 19.9 square miles, located in western Kentucky with 78 sworn personnel. Paducah does boast a higher call volume, likely from the proactive calls generated by their department's specialized units. They do have a full-time traffic unit. The one that actually did the same study that I'm doing here is the one that I was able to talk to the most. And they saw significant benefits to the overall, not just the decrease in collisions, but also a decrease in overall calls for service because their proactivity and their visibility was lowering crime. And as you can see from this last graph, they conduct more than twice the amount of traffic stops, likely due to they've got I think 27 more officers on the roster than we do. So on this graph behind me, you can see that Georgetown does have a higher number of collisions than Paducah. And you can also see that I did a county-wide fatality comparison. Paducah's in McCracken County, so I compared their total numbers for 2014 to ours in 2014. We had 13, they had 4. And so, again, this is likely due to the fact that they've got 27 more sworn personnel than we do, and they place much higher emphasis because of that staffing on proactive stuff like traffic enforcement. So I've included in all the packets multiple studies that have been conducted over the past few decades on how an increase in traffic enforcement impacts various communities. So I encourage you to look at those. I've also referenced them on the last page if you want to go and look at any of those studies in detail. Some of them are very interesting. But every one of those have shown significant decreases in collisions, violent crime, property crime, calls for service, or fatalities just through an increase in proactive traffic enforcement.
We don't use a lot of specialized task forces, et cetera, to enforce our high crime areas. One of the things that we know when you have a traffic unit, you also reduce the other crimes, shoplifting, thefts, burglaries, because your people are stopping and they're having contact with people. And we would set our hours whenever we formed this unit to do just that. Also affect crime patterns that we see popping up in the city. So it doesn't require an action. We know that there's an amendment, and that the amendment includes 2 officers for the agency. If we're blessed with that, we'll take it. In the future, this is simply to prepare you for at some point in the future with increasing population and the number of cars that we're seeing on our road, that we should as a city consider a specialized traffic unit. I know you get the complaints because I get the calls, speeding on my road, speeding down in this area of town, running lights in this area of town, and you know we're call driven. And so we get to it when we can. Our first priority is to answer those calls for service. And then when we have people, mostly on Tuesdays, do not speed on Tuesdays, because that's our double day. That's when we do most of our traffic enforcement, because we have the most bodies.
Well, that will be the headlines for the paper. Do not speak on Tuesday. But I do have a question on the numbers. On the fatalities, that's the 13 fatalities, and then the collisions. Are those numbers in the city, or is that countywide?
All the fatalities were countywide.
Do you know how many of them were actually in Georgetown proper?
Usually it's anywhere from 33 to 50% as a general rule of total county fatalities. But where we're a joint unit, those numbers are tracked on a county basis.
And the collisions are Georgetown, or the collisions are?
The total number of collisions are for Georgetown limits. Okay. The fatalities for countywide.
Is it 1,500 collisions? Is that what?
1,553 for 2014. And the numbers aren't complete yet, but it was 1,602 for 2015. The last time I checked, there's still some of those numbers that are coming in. So we're looking at an increase in over 50 from 2014 already.
I did have a question. We had talked about this a little bit in the police committee, since we're the junction of 2 major interstates, do you think that makes traffic patterns worse in town? Like speeding, or, I know it's worse with drugs, you know, and.
I will say that with the
High volume.
interstates, it brings a lot of people that aren't familiar with our roadways in the county.
Yeah.
I think that can present a problem all in itself when you have people that aren't familiar with our traffic patterns, with the way that we do school traffic, you know,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Oh, I
So,
think, yeah.
Of today's 3 robberies, 2 were from out of state.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that, wow. Where were they?
CBS was from Indiana.
Mm,
Wow.
wow.
So what was this, were all 3 of them, what did you say happened? Were they all captured, or?
Yes, all 3 solved by our guys.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Officer Liddell had completed this report. Chief Bosse had shared it with me. We thought it important information for the council to see. But we actually waited until this point in time when the amended budget that we'll hopefully finalize tonight could include 2 additional police officers. To truly implement this program in the robust way that we'd like to, it will require 4 officers to do. But since we got halfway to that magic 4 number with our budget amendment tonight, we thought it was an appropriate time to go ahead and hear the officers' report and create a little incentive for us, if we can, find the funding for the additional 2 officers, which would allow us to really implement this program.
And if I could just compliment Nick on stepping forward and doing the work that he's done. The reason we combined the traffic reconstruction team was because it takes so much expertise that our guys have to learn from each other. We needed the county and the city working together to have the cumulative effect of all that training and have enough guys to answer all the fatalities now that we're getting. Because fatality takes, golly, it takes a huge amount of time. They reconstruct the whole thing, and it's a regular investigation. It takes quite a bit of manpower.
Which road, since you're familiar with it, which road in Scott County, since this is Scott County, has had the most fatalities on it?
I know that 227 and then East 460 are 2 of the problem spots.
And you said East 460?
Towards Paris.
Oh, that's my neck of the woods. It's our neck of the woods.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know this is a numbers game, but I just am curious when I'm looking at these Paducah versus Georgetown. And they're similar. Paducah is smaller than we are in population, but bigger in square miles. But they have 78 sworn personnel versus our 51, and we have more population.
Yeah.
My question to you is that city for Paducah as well? Just as the city police officers, not county?
Correct.
Okay. I'm just wondering about what kind of revenue they have coming in and what their salary range is. That would be interesting to have for when we do our budget.
We'll have that for you.
Okay.
Yep.
And you know, it'd be interesting as we look at that, Connie. I mean, those numbers jump out at you. It'd also be interesting to compare the property tax rate in Georgetown, Kentucky with the
I was
property
just
tax
thinking
rate
that.
in Paducah,
Yeah,
Kentucky.
the tax rate is.
We have an incredibly low property tax rate. It may be the lowest city in the state. I'm not
It is the lowest,
sure.
it's the lowest in the state.
Yeah.
So
By-
that could
by
be a
half.
part of the answer, that
Yeah.
simply more property tax revenue allowed them to hire more police officers.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just, I find it staggering, shocking to be quite honest, that in 2014, there were 30,083 calls for service. And this is just vehicle-related calls for service, correct? Or is that total calls
This is
for service?
total departmental.
Total department? If you divide that out on an average day, there's anywhere between 85 to 90 calls for service every single day in this, if you average it out over a year's time. That's amazing.
These are numbers that we need to be aware of and the public needs to be aware of. Chief Bosse is correct when he says we are call-driven. Our officers have to almost spend their day going from one call to the next call. And the idea of taking time out of that schedule to run traffic enforcement, it's just not there.
You know, I'll add one to that. We're not a small town anymore. And with the population growth that we're anticipating, the cost for service alone are just going to do nothing but continue to grow as the population grows. I mean, I think it's a wonderful presentation.
I do have one question, are any of those 30,083 calls duplicate calls? Are they generally?
Those don't include traffic stops. So you can actually add the traffic stops into that, and that's the total activity for the department.
Okay.
It can include officer initiated, if you have a detective going to follow up on an investigation and they call out somewhere. But the biggest chunk of that's from what we call reactive calls for service, where someone has called in and requested us to call them or requested us to come out and meet with them to resolve an issue.
Okay.
What's the average cost of a citation for someone that gets pulled over?
Court costs are $143, so that's not negotiable, with the exception of seatbelt citations and child safety restraint citations. Those don't include court costs. And then your typical, for speed, it's $2 a mile. So it'd be $20 to that $143 for 10 miles over. It's doubled in speed limits and work zones. I'd say $20 to $30 is probably an average fine added to the court cost.
Paducah's got 6,000 more citations, I guess, if I'm reading that right. We had 4,200 traffic stops. They had 10,200 traffic stops.
I don't have their citation data. All I've got is how many traffic stops. And I know that they have the same mindset just in talking to the officer. Their goal is to change behavior, not necessarily generate revenue. So they're utilizing written warnings, verbal warnings, as well as citations. It's officer discretion. And I'm not 100% sure how much of the revenue comes back to the city, but from what I understand, it's marginal.
If you all were doing this as a unit, then it'd be the same people doing it. So like if you saw the repeat offender, you first time might give a warning, but then if you saw that habit was there, then.
Paducah saw an increase in the number of insured drivers on the road. They saw a decrease in the number of collisions. They saw a decrease in the overall calls for service because of the visibility. I've had several people come up to me just in the community, make a comment. Maybe we had one guy that was out working traffic detail on federal overtime dollars that we get, thinking that there's 3 or 4 officers out when there's just one, and he's just working one area for a couple of hours. And it's traffic enforcement is one of the most visible things that we can provide to the community. So.
But we have a lot of issues with the neighborhoods where people complain about the speeding.
Yeah.
This would work perfect in those neighborhoods.
Yeah, it really would.
And Officer Liddell and David's point, we need to emphasize that this is not a revenue issue for the city of Georgetown. Years ago, when Kentucky went to the district court system and eliminated local police courts, they froze cities called net court revenue. And it doesn't matter if we write 5 tickets a year or 105 tickets a year, our revenue is locked in. The amount of tickets we write does not change the revenue to the city of Georgetown. Some people think we're just looking for revenue when we're truly trying to save lives and change behavior.
Thank you. I think it's a good report. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you very much.
Well
for your
done.
effort.
Very good.
Dan, we got a copy of that for you if you'd like one.
Okay. Do you have a copy of the Brad Penn report for me, too?
Yes, sir, just procedurally, you might need to file a request for that one.
It's already,
Oh.
I've already emailed it.
I don't even have one.
Boy, slick.
He knows it.
Yes, sir, we'll be glad to provide that now that you filed the open records.
Now that you went through the proper channels.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to quickly move through this. We always make Mr. Wilhite wait.
But he loves it.
He does.
Doesn't he, Bob?
I don't know
The
if
thing
it's
is,
You should push him down on the agenda a little further because he's really enjoying this.
well, we've got a bunch of folks in the back row who have spent a bunch of time waiting, but Bob, yours goes quickly, so if you could come forward.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Have 3 items to request your approval on tonight. First is approval of a purchase order to Oser Paint Center in the amount of $11,296.74 to install 2,360 square feet of vinyl flooring and 337 feet of vinyl cove base for the second phase remodel at our new admin building. Oser was the low bid on the first phase, and they held their unit prices the same on the second phase, and we'll also be able to match the flooring that we already put in. And the expenditure will come out of the facilities upgrade line item in our budget, and the board approved this item on February 16th.
There a motion for approval?
I make a motion.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Next is a purchase order to Culy Contracting. They had the low bid amount of $19,980. This is to seal and coat the inside of 42 manholes in Scroggins Park. It's approximately 185 vertical feet, and Culy has performed similar repairs in other areas of our system. This expenditure will come out of the wastewater collection system upgrade budget, and our board approved this item on February 16th.
Motion.
I'll second.
Seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Approval of purchase order for professional services to Kentucky Engineering Group in the amount of $33,500 for preparation of a CMOM report, which stands for Capacity Management Operations and Maintenance. As part of our discharge permits for our 2 wastewater plants, we are required by the Division of Water to prepare this report and have it on file in Frankfurt, as well as have it at our plants for their inspection. So it's something that we are required to do this year when we got our new permits.
Make a motion.
Motion's been made.
I'll second.
Second.
She can.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Y'all done?
We're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He sat there for an hour and 23 minutes, and it took him 2 minutes to get to his line item. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's because he's so good.
You're good, Bob.
What that tells me is the pressure's on Wayne.
That's right. You got 2 minutes, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
patience.
How's the new building coming, real quick? Is it?
Have y'all been in there?
It's
Nice.
2,400 employee training center that we've never had before, so we're looking forward to having that open. So
Good.
invite you all to come down anytime, and I would glad to tour you around and see what we're doing.
Okay.
Love to see it.
I'll do
Look for me
that.
Wednesday. Wednesday, I'm off Wednesday. Okay? All right.
And Bob, as we get this technical data that we've been promised about the stockyards issue, we'll get together and make sure that gets to the right
I'd like
hands.
to share that with Wellhead as well as our board, so everybody has the same information.
Yes, sir. Thank you. At long last, our friends from Netgain have been waiting for some time. Just by way of introducing this topic, we've talked with council for some time about our need to take a different approach to our IT needs. And we've been evaluating what we think is the best path forward for the city's IT needs. We've had the opportunity to receive proposals from Netgain. We have visited their call center. I'd like to thank Councilman Lesby and Councilman Bradley for making that trip with us. Megan went with us from a staff perspective. Andrew went with us, since one of our key goals in this whole initiative is to get our city attorney back. We've treated him as an IT manager for too long, but we think we have a much better solution. The proposal that we bring you for your approval tonight, after Wayne and his crew talk about this a bit, will be for the city to change their managed service provider from Sophisticity to Netgain for users in City Hall and all of city proper and dispatch. We'll talk with you in a few minutes about the details about the police department, which we will undertake at a future meeting when I've had more chance to talk with the chief about how that might impact his budget. Figured I wouldn't spend your money, Chief, until we had a chance to talk about it. So, Wayne, are you going to lead this presentation?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We've had the fine opportunity to meet with you in the past and provided some services, and I just want to thank you for considering Netgain's managed services. Through some discussions over the past month or so, we really tried to understand some of the needs and challenges that the city faces today. And through those discussions, we found that you have used different methods in which you support your technology. Some of that is with internal, some of it is with managed services. And what we want to do today is just talk a little bit about what makes us different. And if you could allow me just a few minutes to tell you the things that we have in our managed services offerings that will give you the level of service that you deserve and that you need. We've been in business. We're local. We're 10 minutes up the road. I've been in business for 32 years. I've been with the company nearly 18 years, and we've been providing managed services for over 15 years. And there's a few things that make us different. When you look at managed services around the U.S. today, there's some things that we do a little bit different, and I'd like to just go through those and explain to you what that means to you and how that you can expect to have a better level of service. And not so much a better level of service, but really, you know, you've kind of outgrown the current provider you have. They've met your needs, but, you know, as the fastest growing city in Kentucky, there's a lot of needs that you have today and to prepare you for future growth. So I'm going to jump right in. One of the first things that we do, some of the council members had an opportunity to come and visit, is our help desk services. This probably makes us a lot different than those that you may have seen before. We own and staff our own help desk services. We have it right in our facilities. We have all kinds of ways to monitor tickets, and we have a good means to be able to know when there's somebody that's not being served fast enough, so there's really good tools and processes in place. If you look at managed services, a lot offer a Tier 1 support. We offer Tier 1, 2, and 3, so we try to make sure that whatever problem that you have, it's resolved in that call center when you call in the first time. Most IT managed companies today do not own their own help desk. They outsource that. And when you outsource that, that leads to a delay in how quickly you get support, as well as some other issues that may come along with support. I feel like Andrew's still on the show here.
Mayor, I don't think you really wanted to give it up, all right?
I'm going to go sit down.
Now we know why Wayne's here, because our IT guy can't turn the TV on.
I'd have to call on Zach. Okay, so help desk, I'm going to move on to a process which we call the onboarding process. And one of the things that's really important is that you really need to understand the environment very well and know where you are and where you need to be. And as part of that process, we will provide a complete network assessment with recommendations. We'll also provide a full asset inventory. Everything's tagged and labeled. You'll know exactly what you have. We'll help create a life cycle. When's the best time to turn that equipment over? The best way to protect your investment. We'll also provide Visio drawings of the way that the wide area network, everything's connected. This may be a bit technical. Something that a lot of people like is the cyber security profile. Today, everybody's concerned about, is our data protected? We're going to go through and do a security profile to make sure that you are secure. And if there's other steps that need to be taken, we're going to advise you and give you direction on things that you can do there. The last thing that I'll mention in this, you're going to have your own customer service manager. So we're going to have somebody assigned to your account that deals with day-to-day activities, things outside of the help desk that's going to be able to provide us support. So if there are things that need to be expedited, that person's going to be assigned to your account. The third area is strategic business review. And oftentimes we find there's a big gap between IT and understanding the business needs and how those investments are going to help the city or help the business. So we have a whole process. We meet every quarter and we review the strategic business needs for the city. This is going to be an advisory that we can tell you things you need to be aware of. This is going to be a state of the city, things that are going on regarding your technology. If there are things that you want to do to grow, which I've heard a lot about growth tonight, we're excited about that. So you need to make sure that everything's in place so you can continue to grow. And those strategic discussions, if they're held now and we're proactive, we're better able to serve the investment that the city makes and prepare you for future investments. So those are all things. We go through some IT road mapping to help you prepare for capital investments. Nobody likes to have an unexpected capital investment that you have to make. We're going to plan that out. We're also going to look at trends. Oftentimes there are things that occur on a weekly, monthly basis. And by reviewing those trends, we can understand things that need to be changed, training, whatever those things are. So we're going to move that around. And now, instead of proactive, we're going to be in a reactive or proactive state for you. The last thing that I'll mention to you tonight is our service level agreement. And what we do is we really look for businesses, companies, cities that will partner with us. So what we're going to do, if we miss a service level agreement, we're going to turn around and we're going to give you a credit on your next month's invoice for any service levels that we miss on your behalf. No other managed IT company that we're aware of in the United States now is offering that. So that will be something, if we miss, we're going to turn around and we're going to reimburse you on a credit the next month. Those are the main areas that we find that make us different and how we can provide the level of support that you guys need. The most important thing is when you are strategic and when you're looking ahead, as the chief did tonight, you know, those are things that are important so you can plan for that. And I've got a great team of people here that make that happen. So I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have.
We currently, speaking of police department, we currently have our police department with you, do we not?
You do.
Mm-hmm.
For about
Many
10 years. Mm-hmm.
Although, Karen, the work that Netgain does for the police department today is a fairly low level of service. The contract that we're seeking for the city and for dispatch is a much higher level of service. We need to do that cost analysis on the police department and bring that back to you at another meeting, if we bring the police department all the way up to that level as well. Right now, we use a lot of one detective's time. Ricky Lusk, I think, contributes 70 to 80% of all his time to IT for the police department. That's a real cost to us. We don't have him available as a detective. Captain Swanigan spends 15 to 20% of his time on IT stuff. I hate to think how much Andrew's spent on IT stuff. I'd like to let these people do their real job and let IT professionals do their real job and recover some of our manpower.
That's really a key point that we hear a lot of businesses that are moving from internal or other managed services that, you know, they have somebody internal that's spending way too much time dealing with IT. What we want to get to is in our strategic meetings once a quarter, that's when IT is discussed. There's a plan, a roadmap. There's lots of reporting that the city has access to, so you can see real time everything that's going on. But the main thing is that you have your key people focused on doing the business for the city and not spending time with busy IT stuff.
The other great advantage to this relationship, we think, is assistance in strategic planning for IT. We've been catching up. We've been attempting to keep up. We've been trying to barely address our needs. We haven't spent any time or energy looking at what the future of our IT should be. And Netgain can help us with those future-oriented conversations. We simply don't have the capacity to do it today and sophisticated and able to.
Well, as much as technology changes from month to month or year to year, we're behind when we bring somebody in to look at what we need to do. We can stay on top of this technology this way.
As much progress as we've made in the past couple of years
Mhm.
on the IT front, the big projects that we've undertaken, we've had to do all that work.
Right.
Right, so we've had to do all the planning and the research and the footwork ourselves. Yeah, Sophisticity has done the technical part of it, but 80% of those projects is up front.
Right.
Can I make a comment?
Please, I'd like to hear from you and Chuck, since y'all were
Yeah.
part of the visit.
Well, the tour is impressive, and I'll tell you a little bit about that, but, you know, I guess I've mentioned Netgain for the past few years in different capacities, and part of my level of confidence has been the fact that my employer uses them, Whitaker Bank, and I know they represent other banks, they represent other municipalities. I'm not sure if you mentioned or not, but I believe you said you were in 6 different states with maybe 7 different locations.
Yeah, we have 7 offices in 6 states.
And you walk into a room, I mean, they're literally 10 minutes from here, they're on US 25. I think most of us know where they're located, next to Obasto. But the room where the calls come into is a little bit bigger than this room, but it's lined with little help desks, and mostly guys that are pretty sharp are sitting at these desks with their headsets on, and then they have this, what's it called, white sound? Is that what's radiating?
White
from
noise,
this?
yeah.
White noise?
Yep.
Okay. But anyway, they're taking the calls, and they're able to get on your computer. If you were here at City Hall, they can actually take over your workstation and try to help you fix the problem, which is really nice. You know, I'm
do that,
accustomed to that at Whitaker Bank. That's something that we've benefited from. The other thing is that, I mean, they've got a local flavor. Kim Hutton's here with us tonight, and I'm not saying that's a huge plus, but.
I appreciate that.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. My point is this. And Karen and I, we realized this with the chief and the police department when we brought back in Jim Codell to help with that police department. That was a past relationship that we had with the pool that we felt very confident about. And I think this is the same thing with Kim and Wayne and this group. I feel like that relationship that we have is just going to be a plus for the city of Georgetown. And it certainly, it's time to get it off of Andrew's shoulders and let him do what he needs to be doing, and let somebody that knows what they're doing take over and give us that direction that we desperately need. I'll leave it at that.
Amen.
That's good.
Oh, the savings. Andrew, you can probably explain the savings. If we don't take on the police department right now,
Yeah.
what was that monthly or annual savings?
So right now, we're spending 200, a total between what we pay for managed IT service and a provided on-site engineer, $222,684 a year. And that's without dispatch. Bringing in dispatch and keeping those other same entities on board, we will spend $207,720, and that's a difference of right at $15,000 less that we'll spend, and we'll add 22 users.
We will have a one-time onboarding fee of around $26,000.
That's correct.
But we save money on the contract itself.
And just to add, that fee also covers the onboarding. You're going to get the cybersecurity profile, the network assessment. So there's a lot of things that you would get in there that's typically businesses pay for, but that's included in the setup onboarding as well.
Good. Chuck, your impressions?
Well, I was surprised that there was a facility like that right down 25. I mean, we walked in, it was like you were going in Fort Knox. I mean, it was secure. The whole thing was impressive, like David said. I think we're faced with a decision whether we hire somebody on staff, and I think it would take 2 people, and the type of expertise it would require a salary that I think would equal what we're having here. But then we would be limited to the ability of those 2 people, where with this scenario, we have the whole team. I mean, they have a whole team of engineers. If there's a problem they can't figure out, they go to somebody else in the company who knows. So what we get is a whole bunch of people instead of just limited to 2 staff members. So I'm pretty much sold on it.
Good, thank you.
And I agree with Chuck, except for the part that 2 people could probably run the department. I think it's probably more like 3.
I'm conservative.
I've gathered that, Chuck.
Dave and I were just talking, and even if you have 2 or 3 people, what if one walks out one day? Then you're,
So true.
we've had that.
And I think that's happening.
Then you have nobody, you know.
Well, I
Mr.
think,
Thompson, that's the big challenge today is people there's more and more people moving to managed services because I think the average stay for an IT person is 3 years on the low end and 5 on the high end. And they typically come in and they get some certifications and then they go to where they can, the grass is greener, yeah. So.
Yeah, historically, we haven't had a whole lot of success when it comes to
No.
computers in general and technology in general. So I support the move to you all were great with have been great with the police department, even though as the mayor said, it's not to its full capacity of using Netgain, but we've had a good relationship with Netgain with the police department.
Thank you.
And little to no problems ever that I can remember having with it. It was like they didn't even exist. It was all problems that were coming out of City Hall, so.
Well, I just want to say that for the IT thing, it's good to know that about Whitaker Bank and all of the other banks because secure is important. And I've been concerned about our city doing that with what we've got. We've had nothing but relics. And Sophisticity brought us out, but it's time for us to look at something, and like you said, a plan, a goal, a roadmap to take it further. And the other thing is that you all are always going to be on the cutting edge of technology. So that's going to be able to have us have that at our hands. So
Yeah, if I could tell you just a quick story, I have a customer, healthcare, probably 100 users. They were on the service, brought in a new piece of software. The software vendor was saying you need to have 10 of these boxes. And at the end of the day, we said, well, their network's set up like this. So they were able to save $80,000 because they were already prepared. So those are the types of things that we will do is to help you go through those decisions for new software, new programs that come in, and make sure that, you know, you're not being told that you need to spend X because you can already do
Heard
this.
If there are other questions for Wayne or his team, and we appreciate you all being with us tonight, and you suffered through your civics lesson this evening.
Civics 101.
I did ask Robert if he'd ever been to a city council meeting, and he said no, so thank you all.
Well, there you go.
Next question, would you come back?
Cut your teeth on.
Aren't you glad you weren't at the front of the agenda then? Yeah,
That's good right there.
Right, that was good. Then,
I'd be glad to make a motion for approval. I know it's a memorandum or municipal order, but.
Yes, sir.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you all each have a copy of the municipal
Yes,
order,
sir.
and you've looked through it. That being the case, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. For the council's benefit, we do some actions that are fairly routine, and some are very significant for our operations. And what you've done tonight is one of the big steps. This has been on our plate for a while, and there's been a lot of uncertainty about how we should do it. So I cannot tell you how relieved I am with the council's action in bringing that game
Andrew's
on board.
actually smiling, look.
I know.
Andrew. Hey, if now maybe I'll get a traffic ordinance, right?
That's right.
Good. Then Wayne, we'll get with you about executing contracts and scheduling the onboarding activity and things of that nature.
Big deal.
It's huge.
Thank you all so much, we really appreciate it. Have a great night.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know where you are.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, David.
Okay. moving right along. I've kind of kept the city's newest father here longer than I should have. Kyle's a new daddy, and I kind of kept him here.
Congratulations. She's so cute.
Probably the only sleep he could get is right here.
I feel so well rested right now.
Look at all that I get.
Oh, that's great. We have several municipal orders to approve tonight. The first is, we have taken bids on the demolition of the hazardous material abatement and the ultimate demolition of the center of town. And we have a municipal order in your packet. This is the one where the bids came in all over the place. From a low to a very high. So I've asked Kyle and Andrew to really dig into their bid and make sure that we're comfortable with this recommendation, because it was significantly lower than others. And we've determined, we've checked their references, and they've all been very positive references. We've ensured ourselves that any hazardous material will be handled in an appropriate way. A subcontractor will handle that before they come in and start knocking down the building. But this is a lower amount than we anticipated.
Yay.
That's a good.
We don't get many breaks, but we do get this one. Kyle, is there anything, the demo bid is pretty straightforward?
Very straightforward.
$29,900. Is there a motion for approval?
Second.
Second?
I couldn't believe it either. It's pretty great.
Good.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, Council.
Andrew has also been working on an interlocal agreement to guide us with the joint project with the county. We first thought we could do it with the municipal order, but it turns out when we did the parking lot project, the prior council used an interlocal agreement to approach that project, so we'll do the same in this case. Kyle, would you explain the United States Geological Survey?
Yes. We've had an agreement, I think every year since I've been here, probably since 2008, with the Geological Survey for the stream gauge down on the North Elkhorn. It measures stream depth, temperature, and a number of other factors that are used on a statewide basis by the federal government. So this year, the agreements for our part of the agreement would be $37.50, and I'm recommending approval.
Is there a motion for approval of?
I'll make the motion. Okay, doesn't matter.
Doesn't
matter.
1 second.
Is that a motion?
Yeah,
Yes.
Millie had a motion.
Second?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor, I don't have a copy of the municipal order for the relocation of the accessible parking stall on North Hamilton Street.
I don't either.
Wow.
Oh, no.
Can you explain that to us?
I bet I don't either.
But
I could show you an email where I sent it to somebody.
After all I do for you.
I know.
How
I know.
on earth?
I gotta throw you under the bus.
This is so straightforward. It is a,
Yes.
it is a parking stall that is restricted for handicap parking. That is going to move from one side of the street to another side of the street. We're not adding one. We're going to eliminate one on this side of the street and add one on the other side of the street.
Is that on North Hamilton down
It's
there?
on
by
North
the
Hamilton.
apartment?
Yeah.
Diane.
Yes, it is.
Marshall.
Yeah.
Right.
got
I'm
it.
familiar with it.
Yeah.
Matter of
and-
So we're not losing a parking spot, we're just switching where the
So-
handicap.
Switching what there is.
So she owns both properties on either side of the street. The tenant on the one side, on the east side where the handicap stall is now, no longer is there, but she has a new tenant on the west side that needs it.
It needs a handicap.
Yes, I got it. I'm on it. Motion.
Thank you.
Oh, second.
Second.
You're getting your chance, Karen.
David's telling me to hurry up.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry. Anything else, Kyle?
No, just this copy for Connie.
She ain't told
No,
me
I
to
don't
get
need
it.
that. I know what you're talking about. She called me.
Okay. Item 10 on your agenda is second reading of the budget amendment ordinance sponsored by Mr. Lesby and Ms. Tackett. Second reading, you haven't had additional questions, haven't had additional questions, we're ready for second reading. Shall we read the title?
We have to read the whole thing.
Oh, we do have to read the whole thing? All right, read the summary.
An ordinance amending the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year July 1, 2015 through June 30, 2016. Summary. General Fund. Prior year revenues are decreased by $1,584,114.65. Net profits revenues are increased by $2,476,160. Other revenues are increased by $234,922.67. Transfers in are increased by $65,017.40. General government expenses are increased by $120,000. Building inspection expenses are increased by $30,000. Police department expenses are increased by $77,312.65. Fire department expenses are increased by $44,557.60. Public works expenses are increased by $21,500. Capital expenses are increased by $285,560. Other expenses are decreased by $39,120.51. Transfers out are increased by $310,079. Business Park Fund. Revenues from sales of property are increased by $158,295. Expenses are increased by $158,295. Grant Fund. State grant revenues are increased by $6,832. Federal grant revenues are increased by $321,864.31. Police department expenses are increased by $36,954.31. Fire department expenses are increased by $291,742. Drug Forfeiture Fund. Transfers in are increased by $102,982.60. Expenses are increased by $101,091.64. MAT Fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $43,000. Expenses are increased by $43,000. Environmental Services Fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $54,393.89. Transfers in are increased by $119,400. Solid waste expenses are increased by $54,393.89. Stormwater expenses are increased by $119,400. Cemetery Operating Fund. Transfers in increased by $69,894.88. Capital expenses increased by $69,894.88. Capital Projects Fund. Prior year revenues are increased by $168,650. Intergovernmental revenues are increased by $234,321. Transfers in are increased by $190,679. Capital expenses are increased by $425,650. Transfers out are increased by $168,000. All ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. This ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. Full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made,
I'll second.
seconded. And since it's an ordinance, shall we call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer-Erdley?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. Item 11 on your agenda is the second reading of the amendment to the personnel ordinance. Sponsor was Mr. Lesby.
An ordinance amending Section 2-111, subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to establish and remove certain positions. Summary. 1. Amends Section 2-111, subsection C of the Code of Ordinances, which sets forth the classifications, associated pay grades, and authorized positions for each department to create the position of permit technician, senior building inspector, and senior HVAC inspector in the building inspection department. Change the title of Chief Building Inspector to Director of Building Inspection, Building Official, and change the number of building inspector positions from 3 to 1. 2, provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324. Introduced and publicly read for the first time February 8th, 2016. Publicly read the second time February 22nd, 2016.
Thank you. There a motion for approval?
I make a motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made
Second.
and seconded.
And let me just say, this building inspection, you all know I'm all for smaller government in any form, shape, or fashion, but you all remember being on council, how many complaints we had about building inspection. And when I became mayor, made a major change, there was 9 or 10 employees out there at the time. And the reason I'm saying this is to compliment the 3 guys that are there currently. They went through all the ups and downs that came with the city. They never complained. They did their job. They didn't, at the time, Jim Burgess didn't even want to be chief building inspector, but he stepped up to the plate. He's been
done a great
superb.
job.
He's done, and we haven't had all the issues that we were having as far as council members on that. And then take away his staff person, that they had to do their own job down there. And today, back in 2006, they had 9 or 10, and today they've had 3, and the increase in building and stuff. So yes, they need their staff person back, and these 3 guys are superb, absolutely.
Really appreciate you mentioning that.
Yes, and so that's why I support this very much. They need it.
Thank you. Shall we call the roll?
Mr. Radley?
Yes.
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer Erdley?
Yes.
Mr. Lesby?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
It passes. Thank you very much. Before the meeting, Mr. Thompson and I were guessing about the over/under on the length of this meeting.
He told me 2 hours.
I predicted 2 hours, and now it's entirely in your all's hands. It's time for council comments.
We say nothing, we're out.
Shut us up.
I said an hour and 55 minutes.
Oh, you've already lost.
Oh, listen.
No, we were arguing that for anybody's information, Scott County starts their district tonight. And I was wondering how, we would be out of here in time, so.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're close. Let's see. Where shall we begin? Mark, would you like to begin it down your end?
Any updates on Forland Drive?
The gravel.
No good updates. But that's not a lost cause yet. Okay. Chuck?
I had a conversation with Pat Fannin, who came to the last council meeting, about the snow plan, signs, and Cherry
Yes.
Blossom. She wanted me to pass on that she wants the signs, but wants to have some say on where they go.
Interesting.
So she likes the idea of this whole emergency route and the whole plan, but sometimes some of the sign locations didn't suit well with some of the people that live there.
Let's see this one. I just put it
It's
on.
good to know that they've got that flexibility.
Just thought I'd pass that on.
We can work with that. Connie?
The only thing I want to ask, I had a few phone calls about Time Warner. Is there any update on Time Warner?
What specifically about Time Warner?
Well,
We've
you
got quite a
said-
few issues.
Well, the customers are complaining about it going out, the internet being slow, just,
Lose half of your package and the other half works and.
it's kind of weird.
This is the first time I've heard complaints like that. And these are the kinds of things that we have the ability under our franchise to really do something about. We have legitimate quality of service issues. There's tools for us and for the citizens to have redress. That's the first time I've heard any of the issues that we've heard are more, we aren't getting service.
Well, that is a true statement as well, but these are people that are in town that are having problems with Time Warner as far as the cable going out. excuse me, still paying for it when it's going out.
Big a need and this, that, and the other, you know.
So I was wondering,
The need
If
is.
you,
How
if
could
you
that
could
be?
ask those people to contact us, we'll see if we can get them to.
yes, I'll have them call tomorrow.
Do we have some kind of a complaint form that we could actually have the citizen, that could do it online or something, a complaint form they could fill out, and
One of
then
those
you could
e-ticket
have
things?
that, and then send it off to Tom Warner or something like that?
I think we do. We also have our GovQA service. They can simply go to our website, go to the citizen portal,
And
type
do
it
it that way?
in, hit enter, and we get it.
Okay, I'll make a suggestion, people do it that way.
I'll do that too.
As a matter of fact, we like encourage citizens to use that on any kind of issue that they have with the city, because it's easy for us to implement that into our work orders.
Okay.
And if it's a phone call or a, I'm sorry.
No, they don't have internet, right. Good. Thank you, well said, Dan.
What do you say?
If they don't have internet, you can do it.
And that way, you know, if it's a phone call or a message and things get dropped, if
Yeah.
it's actually entered, then it's going to prompt a reminder until that problem's resolved, so that'd be ideal. Good.
That
Anything
was
else?
my question. That's all I got. Thank you.
Karen?
No.
David? Marvin?
Well, I'd just like to compliment you and your staff and this council for us working together for this community. I think it shows. I really do. I appreciate that. It's good to work this way. It really is.
Thank you. Yes, it is.
It's actually interesting, 'cause other people have mentioned that to me
Yes.
too, Marvin.
I've heard that so much.
I've heard
in
it.
the
We
last few
work
weeks.
together.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you know, it's a team effort, you know, and, you know, people really, I think they really appreciate the professionalism.
Well, we don't have to always agree, but we
Yeah.
don't have to be disagreeable about it.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's very
the
important, I think, to, you know, be that way. So I just want to say thank you. It's been fun. It really has. This has probably been one of the best council as far as sitting, and I've sat on, this is my 16th year.
Wow.
So it's long.
It's nice. Thank you.
It's been good.
Good for you.
Alrighty.
Holly?
This was something I brought up at police committee to Chief Bossy and Mark, and I wasn't able to bring it up when you came in because we had to talk about other stuff. But 607 South Broadway, down the street from you. My brother called me. He lives there, John Singer, and Friday, I think it was Friday night, Saturday morning.
Seen
Do you
it
want
on
these?
Facebook, yeah. Heard it on
Yeah,
Facebook.
Mary, my sister-in-law, posted it. He ended up with these in his yard between his house and Doc Sims's house, Harold Sims next door. And some of them were up in a lilac bush, like about 3 or 4 feet high, which would make it that a bird, you know, perhaps picked it up and dropped it. And what they are, they're mice and rat pellets, but they're supposed to be put in containers to protect. And John's fear, and mine too, was that it being 3 or 4 houses down from Garth, if somebody is putting these in their yard and birds are picking them up and they drop them off at the Garth playground. And another concern, I can pass them around, they're similar to these candy blocks, these Lego blocks. And it's, you know, kind of a public health thing, but also a safety concern. And Chief Bossy said he would have his officers look into it. But, you know, John had looked it up, and it is, you know, on our city ordinances, you know, not to poison, you know, wildlife, you know, squirrels, birds, crows, or whatever. And it was just a concern if somebody's doing this, you know, it could end up in our water system, on the playground.
Harm children, kill pets.
Yeah, well, exactly, and also, yeah, because it's an anticoagulant, so it's a slow death. So say like,
Miserable.
yeah, and say like a dog gets it, you know, it's going to take them a while to die, and
Very
if a mice, you know, is kind of stumbling around, they're
Internally bleeding out.
so it's kind of a big thing. I think we kind of need to watch and just make sure people adequately, you know, put their things in these containers. And I don't know if somebody's trying to poison or somebody just didn't know what they were doing.
They got rats.
You know, they have rats, but you know, kind of it was a concern because John has like, you know, 5-year-old, 7-year-old, and being near a playground, you know, it just be pretty scary because I couldn't believe how similar they look to these candies. And actually it was interesting. It said one of the facts was that 25,000 kids between 99 and 2003 required medical attention from eating these things.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I would pass them around, but I don't want to freak you all out.
We're gonna eat them
It's
somewhere
too
else.
bossy. After he picked up the bag. Didn't want to eat his almonds after that. I can't blame him. But I'll talk to Andrew more about it. And I didn't get a chance to email today because I was still getting all this stuff together. And just kind of,
Yeah, that's frightening.
yeah.
Good. Anything else, Molly? Millie?
Yes, just a real quick, we have the farmer's market, and I'm looking forward to that opening on the Saturdays down in the parking lot. But there is something I'd like for you all to think about, and you all know much more about what the city owns property-wise, but is there a chance of possibly looking into a community garden that could be inside the city limits that could benefit the people that need it the most?
I'm in favor of community gardens.
I
vote
think so
yes.
too. I mean, we go to a church in Midway that has one out in the back, in the churchyard, and it's worked on by the members of the church, but it's free for anybody to consume the vegetables and help with the weeding and the process of planting and everything. But I didn't know, I mean, the springtime's coming, and I didn't know if there was a chance of maybe, I hate to give this to Andrew, but to research, some property that might be conducive for people that could help grow some food and would help them out too.
David had mentioned the, down by the creek, right?
Yeah, behind the peninsula.
Yeah,
there.
behind the peninsula.
That
you
used to
mentioned
be,
that.
there used to be some gardens down in that area. I don't know if we had community gardens down in there, but we do own that property. I mean,
Yeah.
technically, it's
We
part of
do?
Cardone
Yeah, that's true.
that got split off. But we did allow some community gardens out by wastewater treatment plant number 2.
Still do, don't we?
Probably
Yeah,
still do.
they're still out
Yeah.
there.
And then, did we talk about the Briar Hill property?
But we couldn't dig into that ground.
Well, you can't dig deep. I don't know, was that ever talked about for community garden? I can't recall.
I think we brought it up.
Be-
We didn't have a resolution of that issue, but that's something we'd have to research.
Be a great place,
And
great
there's-
location.
honestly,
Yeah.
there's
We talked about a dog park or something there one
Yeah,
time,
somebody
but
raised
mentioned
beds. It's
that.
more expensive.
container gardens or something, but I don't know
It's
about
space.
planting in it.
And you could, if people were willing to help construct the raised beds, then
Right.
I think you've eliminated your environmental issue.
Right.
Yeah, you probably have with the raised beds.
You could get Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts or something.
I mean,
like
there'd
that,
be a
work
lot
on
of people that
projects
would
to do that.
want to be
Yep.
taking on a project, but I just wondered if I could bring that up.
And we're more than happy to, if we have land that can be used to make it available. I hope another organization can take on the community gardening activity.
Well, I'm a big-time gardener, so I mean, I'd be happy to volunteer my time to do that.
I'll share one thing. The Windsor Gardens was doing an expansion. Of course, we're all familiar with the Dollar General store as well, but I know specifically with the Windsor Gardens, they were actually paying to haul off some of the good topsoil, and it was very good topsoil. And with us obviously issuing those permits,
Right.
we could be aware of things like that and maybe try to direct some of it over
Send
to
them
Briar
fill up the
direction.
Briar Hill and
Yeah.
smooth it out, clean it up.
Stockpile some good topsoil as we get the chance.
Thank you. That's all. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Anything else to come before the council? We stand adjourned.
All right.